Hi my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. In today's video we're going to be talking about a big tease for the Bad Batch and more. As always my dear friends, before we dive into it, please may I ask you to hit that big red subscribe button if you've not done so, and also be sure to give that bell a good old tickle to be alerted each and every time that I post a new video. So without much further ado and without any more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into it. So we're going to start with the Bad Batch. I came across an interview which is only from yesterday where Gwendolyn Yeo talked about tomorrow's episode of the Bad Batch. Gwendolyn is the voice of Nala Se, and when talking about her character, she said that just like in episode 9 of the show, tomorrow's episode is going to have a big reveal. This is likely going to be a decision that Nala Se has to make, probably choosing Omega over Lama Su's own personal interests. It's been very clear that Nala Se does not agree with her Prime Minister, and that her main motive is to protect Omega. As we know, tomorrow's episode is called War Mantle, where things are hopefully going to start moving very quickly. And then after tomorrow's episode, we'll just have 2 left of this season. And it's believed that those 2 final episodes in August are going to be a 2-parter. But speaking of War Mantle tomorrow, we've been waiting for another Kamino-oriented episode for a while. So hopefully we will get a little bit more development. Now evidently the Kamino storyline ties heavily into that of the Imperial one, as Rampart has run out of patience. So with all of this said, I'm going to play you the audio of the interview with Gwendolyn Yeo that took place yesterday.
Sort of reveal and you know, I've been you sit with a character for so long, and now they're giving you more layers to play is a real pleasure. So it was a surprise in terms of the original pitch, and I think and then these reveals like in 9 and in 14, I think you know, you sort of go, okay, all right. So, you know, let's see where the story goes. But it's been really cool to be able to sort of dial her in a different way, you know.
This is a question for you. We can't really know like what Nala Se wants for Omega, but for you personally, what would you want to see her fate be like ultimately?
Oh gosh, I mean, I want to be very careful. There's 2 answers to that. I think part of me feels that life is hard enough, and I just want people who watch the Star Wars series, in terms of when I watched it, is to feel hope. You know, we'll have to see how the story goes, but you know, I do believe that showing that that we're human and that no one has to be perfect, and to not be labeled, I think is very important.
So now my dear friends, let's move on and talk about Omega, because this article highlights something which I've brought up in the past, that when Lucasfilm designed Omega, they might have wanted her to be reminiscent of Anakin. That's not to say that Omega has Skywalker DNA, but rather there are parallels in their character and the way they behave. So let's take a look at what this article has to say and how it ties into other themes to do with the character of Omega. They start by bringing up the possibility that Omega is what the Kaminoan scientists always wanted, a perfect clone who might even be Force sensitive. Now I know a lot of people don't like this idea, but it is a possibility, even if she has unaltered Django DNA. They back up their theory by referring to someone on Reddit who put forward a very interesting theory. The title is Omega is Force sensitive, but her Force powers are suppressed by her chip. So they say, after seeing the Star Wars Explained video about Omega's inhibitor chip or claimed lack thereof, this is a theory that struck me as plausible. As noted there, the only evidence that Omega doesn't have a chip comes from Omega herself, since she was never scanned for a chip. And unlike Wrecker, who demonstrates how terrifying an enhanced clone with a functioning chip can be, Omega really doesn't seem like she'd be a threat, even if she has a functioning chip. But what if she does have a fully functional inhibitor chip, only a very different one from all the other clones? The person goes on to say, I think she has a chip that suppresses her Force abilities. Kaminoan cloning technology is now capable of creating and manipulating a Force-sensitive being. Lama Su is afraid of what the Empire might do to Kamino if such a secret leaked out under such unfriendly times. So his solution is to get rid of the evidence, Omega herself, once he has extracted enough of her genetic material. They go on to say there are way too many posts posts articles and videos speculating on Omega being Force sensitive on the basis of her abilities in episode 1. Moments like Omega detecting Crosshair's approach to the hangar bay or getting lucky with her first ever blaster shot are flashing alarm lights of Force sensitivity. Even though there's no way to prove that Omega is Force sensitive at this moment, and she hasn't done anything else that screams Force sensitive in all these intervening episodes, they've done nothing to conclusively disprove the idea either. So after all of this, they talk about the similarities between Anakin Skywalker, or rather young Anakin, and of course Omega. So these are the following points that they bring up: similar size and build, blonde child of a single dark-haired parent, opposite sex clone of their genetic donor, and then they say, although the canon Darth Vader comic shows Palpatine quote-unquote fathering Vader using the Force in a vision, the only genetic material in Anakin's body would be his mother's. Genetically, that makes Anakin an opposite sex clone of Shmi, although I'm personally not too sure if I agree with this. Other comparisons that they make is high intelligence and precocious behavior, exceptional skills for their age. 9-year-old Anakin piloting and technical skills are extraordinary. Omega is great at strategy, plus is exceptionally resourceful and emotionally intelligent. She seems to be picking up on technical skills quickly, like being able to work on the Gonk droid, and another example I can think of is Todo 360. They go on to clarify that they don't think Anakin Skywalker's DNA is in her. When Tech says that she's an unaltered clone of Jango, I believe that's exactly what she is. They finish their theory by saying the following: why does Omega not know that she's Force sensitive? Why weren't any Jedi on Kamino aware of her? It's a long shot, but Nala Se, who created Omega as her personal project, probably rigged an inhibitor chip capable of suppressing Omega's awareness of her Force sensitivity, which is why it manifests less in telekinesis and more in behaviors like curiosity and empathy. Now, while I do think there is some credibility to this theory, I'm not sure that's the route Lucasfilm are going to take. There are definitely parallels between Anakin and Omega, but I find it far more interesting if she's not Force sensitive and eventually becomes something like a Mandalorian. But speaking of the parallels, they're kind of opposites to each other. Where Anakin struggled with the ways of the Jedi, Omega seems inherently pure, although she doesn't even seem to know her own Force abilities. From the way that she forgave Wrecker after his chip malfunctioned, to the way that she convinced Hunter to help a young Harrison Jula, Omega seems to be everything Anakin wasn't. They are very different characters. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's a possibility that Omega is going to be Force sensitive, or do you think they have bigger plans for her? One final thing I want to talk about is a poll I put out the other day, asking you guys if you want to see Omega in the Book of Boba Fett. By that point in the timeline, she'd be a grown woman, and even if she doesn't appear in Boba, she's probably going to appear in a different Mandalorian related show. The results demonstrate that 60% of you do want to see Omega in the Book of Boba, with 18% of you saying no, and 22% of you saying I don't mind. So tomorrow, guys, we have episode 14 War Mantle, and I will be doing my full episode breakdown with big Easter eggs and my full review. But until then, guys, let me know what you thought of everything we discussed in today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and a huge welcome if you are, and please consider becoming a patron. The link is in the description down below. But otherwise, I'm Star Wars Meg, wishing you all a phenomenal rest of the day, no matter where you dwell in the galaxy. Have a good one.